I reckon my favourite show of 2007, right, was this thing called Charlie Broker's Screenwipes, yeah? And it had this theme tune, right? It went like... Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker, and you're watching a festive Screenwipe special review of the year type thing. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure exactly what it is, but it's only half an hour, so bear with us. 2007 will be remembered for many things: floods, slapstick terror attacks, and the resignation of Tony Blair. It was a significant year for British television too, but only for all the wrong reasons. Still, never mind the overall summary. Let's start by going back, way back into time, to an age when all was well, to a faraway land called January. As January dawned, the people of Britain were looking forward to another cracking year of TV superbitude. The lovable This Life gang returned in. This Life plus 10. Brilliant! Except it wasn't, it was just glum.
A staged reunion on camera. No one ever comes out of these things unscathed.
So far, it was business as usual in Teleland. The phone line money was still rolling in, ratings were reasonable, runners were still young and pretty and easy to exploit, and everyone was looking forward to the first big guilty pleasure of the year, the hilarious knockabout Celebrity Big Brother.
Oh, brilliant, Celebrity Big Brother. This is always good for a laugh.
You're a normal housemate like everybody else, and you need to come to terms with that and don't lie.
In broadcasting terms, this was a bit like going to a birthday party, then offending everyone by nonchalantly taking a shit in the corner and failing to apologise when everybody got understandably upset. In other words, it was an almighty balls up. TV never quite recovered from the shock and spent the rest of 2007 staggering around in a kind of post-traumatic haze, stepping in one bear trap after another. As for the celebrities themselves, Joe O'Meara and Jade Goody became persona non grata, while by the end of the year, Danielle Lloyd, who'd arguably made the worst comments of all...
I think she should fuck off home.
was rehabilitated to the point where she could be publicly exonerated on a gaudy chat show.
I have to ask, are you a racist?
No, certainly not.
Right, and have you got any black friends?
I've got plenty.
She's right, you know, I've seen the photos.
January also saw the end of an era.
Earlier on this year, right, it was like the last grandstand on BBC. I was like, no, not a last grandstand. It was literally this woman standing in front of the bowls, literally standing there, and literally said, it's the last grandstand.
And that really is it. That was grandstand.
I was like, no! I couldn't believe it. I was gutted. Hang on. Matt, you rapist!
In February, things got worse for telly as a string of phone-in scandals knocked bland TV off its axis.
How you doing? Hello. I can't believe I got through after all this time. I think I've been trying for about 3 years, so need the money to pay my phone bill.
This was just the tip of the iceberg. It soon turned out your dear old friend Telly had been fleecing viewers left, right and centre, a bit like somebody running a dodgy coconut shy where all the coconuts are nailed down so you can't knock them over, and simply holding the ball is charged at 50 pence a minute. Still, if British phone quizzes are insulting and ghastly, the Swedish ones are downright sickening.
Turn.
Say hello to March and an all-new version of the BBC's flagship reality show Castaway, which brought all the fun and excitement of hut-based bickering into the living rooms of about 18 viewers.
In case you can't remember what the winner looked like, here he is.
Comic Relief, yeah, 2007. Oh, it was brilliant, wasn't it? Blair, eh? Oh, Blair. He was so good in it.
It's like butlins, but you don't get wet.
Lauren?
Yeah.
Am I bothered?
I mean, when he did that, you just totally forgot about the war and, like, all those people that were killed and, like, those kids with their arms blown off and everything.
Look at my face.
Right, what are you doing?
Is my face bothered?
He wasn't bothered. He was brilliant.
The Apprentice moved from BBC Two to BBC One, bringing terrifying Ice Maiden Katie Hopkins, played here by the spitting image puppet of the Queen, and furious bullshitter Trey Azam to public attention. Sadly, neither of them won, and the final boiled down to a toss-up between leathery but dependable Christina and dewy-eyed puppy boy Simon.
Simon, you're hired.
Yes.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much.
He still works at Amstrad, actually, bringing the drinks and biscuits. Tea, tray, Sir Alan, sugar.
Throughout April, the third series of Doctor Who entertained the nation, as did new assistant Martha Jones.
One episode in particular, Blink, was one of the most skillfully crafted pieces of populist drama of the past decade, not to mention downright terrifying.
Oh, God. It's locked!
Throughout the year, a lot of old shows ended, like Cuddly Parkinson here, but there weren't many new shows to replace them.
Instead, there were a lot of sequels, spin-offs and, above all, talent contests.
One of the first was Just the Two of Us, a celebrity duet show judged by Cue-Ball Nelson, Jerry Springer, Thingy McSpoo and the Dwarf off Fantasy Island.
Just to underline how useless the celebrity contestants were, they were each paired with a professional singer, making every performance an excruciating blend of sweet and sour. For instance, gallivanting Strictly Come Dancing cockend Brendan Cole was paired with soul legend Beverly Knight, resulting in this. Beverly can sing, while Brendan can f*** off. Some of the acts were so appalling they accidentally became good, like Jim Branning's duet with Jocelyn Brown, in which he sounded like a man trying to pick a fight with music itself.
Everybody look at me! I come in the door and start screaming!
Eventual winner Hannah Waterman, seen here paired with Marty Pellow, soon developed the look of someone who earnestly believes she can hammer out a tune, as opposed to someone who sounds like an out-of-tune hammer.
Still way from my window. Still way from my back door, too.
Oh.
Stuart said, you know, rock should make you sweat, man, and... yeah, it's going on.
Good job she only lifted her arm.
One of the oddest talent contests was the BBC's World's Greatest Elvis, which opened with 30 Elvi singing as a choir, making the whole thing look more like a stark warning about the dangers of human cloning than a song and dance show.
My favourite was the Japanese Elvis, who slavishly copied every aspect of the King's Act apart from his ability to pronounce consonants. Stranger still was ITV's Baby Ballroom, a sort of mini-pops for the noughties in which a selection of kids from a horrifying alternative future strutted their undersized stuff on the dance floor. Judging proceedings were Pepe Le Pew, Ronald McDonald and a haunted ventriloquist dummy.
You know, best of luck, because that's what you're winning, so...
Yeah, so you might as well not bother. But they did anyway, twirling and twirling and twirling and twirling. Well, they might as well have waited until they fell asleep and stuck them on a f***ing turntable so they could simply revolve to the delight of the imbecile audience who just applauded them no matter what they did. Obviously, one couple were more fantastic than the rest and won a sarcastically oversized trophy.
Anything you'd like to say to the judges?
Yeah, how about giving us a hand with the whopping great chunk of f***ing Skylab you've just awarded us, you mad bastards. Throughout the year, the BBC and ITV played an absurd game of talent show copycat with each other, which meant Saturday nights became something of a pissing contest, although a pissing contest might have been entertaining.
For instance, early in the year, the Beeb unveiled When Will I Be Famous, a transparent attempt to upstage ITV with brilliant spectacles like this.
This act was originally accompanied by the sound of 100,000 dads going a bit quiet.
Anyway, that shit was obliterated in the ratings by ITV's Britain's Got Talent, a sort of Care in the Community version of the X Factor.
It was probably the most alarming example of mass public hysteria of the 21st century so far. I mean, 9 million people tuned in to see this. A howling snaggle-toothed coelacanth eventually emerged victorious, but not before grandmas everywhere had their faltering, leathery hearts set aflutter by a 6-year-old whose breath was so bad it made Amanda Holden's eyes water from several metres away. You know, cynicism aside, she actually was really quite heartwarming, and since it's Christmas, let's just take a few moments to hear from her, shall we? Let's not.
No sooner had those wonders ceased than the BBC and ITV went head-to-head again, this time with an extended musical casting session. In the Beebs Corner, Any Dream Will Do, a sort of Christian rock festival crossed with a camp video game. And on ITV, Grease is the Word, a doomed attempt to replace John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John with a couple of gurgling Argos assistants.
As the year wore on, the channels brought out their biggest hitters. For the BBC, that means the bafflingly popular celebrity jig fest Strictly Come Dancing. The dancing all seems fairly monotonous to me, but I guess it's beside the point, because Strictly's main appeal comes in gauging the sexual chemistry between each pair and thinking, I wonder if they've, you know, maybe, and he's on her. Now, you don't find yourself wondering if the contestants are shagging each other when you watch The X Factor. Well, except when these two are on. Yes, same difference, the pop equivalent of two twinkle-eyed cult members trying to recruit you in time for the rapture. The standout X Factor act was, of course, Ridian Roberts, who stomped around the stage as though playing the lead in a gay remake of The Terminator, howling notes like an early warning system. Next year you can look forward to Celebrity Origami Wars, Soap Star Schindler's List, Britain's Greatest Weatherman, and Strictly Come Faces, in which a bunch of blokes have to pull off and go, ugh.
May brought the return of Big Brother.
Fortunately, after all the hullabaloo in January, this time round there was no racism whatsoever for about 5 minutes.
You're pushing it out, you
This time round the problem was swiftly dealt with and the series carried on, and on, and on, longer than ever in fact, and it featured so many housemates that for the first time in BB history, some of them faded into obscurity while they were still on the show.
In case you've forgotten, the full roster of housemates consisted of Posh Spice, Millie Tant, Charlie Williams, Mrs Mangle, Jean Wilder, a Greek dormouse, the Witch off Chorlton and the Wheelies, Matt Lucas, Cleopatra, 2 copies of Barely Legal, a cartoon cat, a haircut, a lipless Disney prince, Kate Thornton, Paris Hilton, Liam, her, that, Mark Lawson, Mr Muscle and Grace Jones, who won! Also in May, Panorama reporter John Sweeney tackled the shadowy world of Scientology by investigating and shouting at it.
You were not there! You did not hear or record all the interview! Do you understand?
What a mad cult.
June is often a quiet month in TV land, not quite as quiet as August, when every commissioning pisses off to a gîte in the south of France for a couple of weeks to read novels and think about kitchens until the entire TV industry grinds to a halt, but still pretty quiet.
So let's skip June and listen to Grace Dent talking about the year in soaps.
The question that I've been asking in EastEnders this year is just what the hell has happened to Stacey Slater?
Keep smiling, nearly there.
The big ongoing story has been the sordid, filthy affair between Max Branning and his daughter-in-law-to-be. At one point, she just seemed to be this real rough diamond, and now she's this demented, coal-eyed slag bag who's just determined to absolutely wreck Max Branning's life just through the power of a vag alone.
Do you still give you that knot in the pit of your stomach?
You can get that from eating too many raisins.
I do have a bit of sympathy for Max because I do feel like he has this hard life and he's living with a lot of really hormonal women. I'm home! I think that's why he's just got that really sad look. I think that's why his hair all fell out. I think that's maybe why he's always got that face like he's never ever got to watch Top Gear right through to the power lap round. He's just a really, really unhappy man. Phil Mitchell was back on the square this year.
He's always got the ump. Quite sexy, really.
Brilliantly, he ended up back on the drink. Now, sober Phil is a big enough pain in the arse, but then you've got fun time Friday night alcoholic Phil.
Mate.
With his big red face and his, like, lax acknowledgement of body space, just kind of, like, pivoting around the pub and mistaking the Queen Vic bar for a urinal and titting up barmaids.
It's a lot of scotch with Come on, hurry up, I ain't got all day.
You can't hate him for it, because if I lived with Peggy, I would need a drink too.
Well, go on then, if you're going to.
It's been a really good year for Minty.
Let's get chicken.
Minty, to me, is a special executive class of soap star who I actually love with all of my heart and I don't want to think that they're actors. I just want to think that when Minty finishes at the studios, he just goes home and he's Minty again. This year, he had an affair with Gary's mum. If they got together, Minty would be Gary's stepdad. This year, David Platt set himself up as Coronation Street's very own Antichrist. Early on in the year, he was blackmailing Tracy Barlow for sex. He was just very, very, very sexually frustrated. Not that that's an excuse. Most late teenage boys, when they're sexually frustrated, they just retire to their bedroom, surrounded by crusty socks and kind of well-rustled pictures of Lindsay Dawn McKenzie. They don't have to be like the architect of terribleness, so I can't excuse him for that. It's been a really good year for Steve McDonald. He's managed to get it together with Michelle, the barmaid. I just think that, you know, while they're so wrapped up in love with each other, they might forget about kind of pulling the, you know, Steve's daughter Amy's hair into that really, really cruel, tight top knot. I feel really sorry for the child because it just seems like if they carry on doing that, she's going to end up with a hairline like his. There's been big excitement with the arrival of John Stape. He's a teacher. Despite resembling a kind of smaller, plumper, less charismatic Curly Watts, he seems to inspire lust in all of the women that meet him. The one person who has had the upper hand over all the other Corrie women has been Rosie Webster. I don't quite know what happened. At one point she was a slightly miserable goth, and now every day she gets up and puts Paris Hilton's slut fancy dress on and plasters her face in makeup and then tries to give her teacher another blowjob. It's been a rather hectic year for Viv Hope over in Emmerdale, who has given birth to twins at the age of 50. She had them out on the moors.
Can't believe this is happening!
Shh, try and keep calm.
I bet you're all wishing that you watched Emmerdale now.
In July, the TV crisis engulfed the BBC. First, there was the Queen trailer cock-up. We were going to do a funny piece on that. And the phone-in scandals, including Blue Peter. We were going to cover that too.
This prompted all sorts of questions over how misleading the medium was as a whole, sending public trust in TV plummeting to an all-time low. Do you believe anything you see on TV?
Yeah.
Would you mind just saying, for the purposes of this, that you don't believe anything? Is that all right? OK. Do you believe anything you see on TV?
No, not really.
Thanks to the relentless drip of scandals, TV had a complete nervous breakdown.
ITV boss Michael Grade pledged zero tolerance for anyone caught betraying the viewer's trust, although later in the year, when a report fingered Ant and Dec, zero tolerance turned out to mean zero. Anyway, it wasn't July's only storm.
The news got its teeth stuck into a crisis at last as Britain went all aquatic.
This gave the anchormen a chance to look hard, standing around in waterlogged streets, pissing themselves with excitement, which of course only made the situation worse. They also encouraged input from tiresome members of the public and occasionally got more than they bargained for, like this poor woman on Channel 4 News. But the floods were nothing compared to the nationwide weeping that accompanied the move in Concert for Diana, at which Emmy-winning comic genius Ricky Gervais paid fitting tribute by inadvertently causing the biggest car crash since 1997. Next, TV got a hammering for being ageist as 60-year-old Nick Ross left long-running Scarefest Crime Watch under suspicious circumstances.
And perhaps the last time that you will hear these words, don't have nightmares.
Older people are actually amongst TV's most loyal viewers, and nowhere is this more apparent than in the daytime schedules.
In the afternoon, OAP's a king, sitting at home surrounded by their Battenberg cake and their memories. They're a huge percentage of the ratings for chat show hosts such as the waspish Paul O'Grady or the tune-murdering Anthony Cotton. You know, I hope this is still going when I'm nearing death, because this is precisely the sort of thing that would really brighten up my last remaining days on the planet.
Could it be magic now?
Of course, the problem with tuning into the old folk slot is that all the adverts serve as a haunting reminder that one day you'll be infirm and wizened yourself.
It's all self-consciously breezy sales pitches for stair lifts and walk-in slump-down shower contraptions, which look a bit like the sort of thing they'd hose a cadaver down in on CSI.
My favourite afternoon ad is this one, in which a silver-haired Lothario attempts to lay some pipe supreme on a mature babe by impressing her with a microwaved ready meal.
This fish is divine.
Of course, the tragedy here is that that's actually the ghost of his dead wife.
Hello, Mr. Williams. Here are your meals. Roast beef, hot pot, lasagna.
I'm entertaining.
Give her one from me, Mr. Williams. Try to do it without breaking a hip. Game shows do particularly well with the oldsters. Sedate Puzzle 'em Up Countdown has been running for years, and more recently, Grey Power has given Noel Edmonds a new lease of life in Deal or No Deal. Not that he seems particularly grateful to the older generation.
You are a miserable man. And probably the ugliest player we've ever had.
This year saw several new game shows being dangled in front of the eyes of coffin dodgers. Amongst the more successful was ITV's Golden Balls, a game of big cash prizes and relentless ball-related euphemism.
I am just a card. Welcome to Golden Balls.
Now, a lot of people say Golden Balls is too complicated, but it isn't really.
After all, it's just a show hosted by the increasingly eerie Jasper Carrot in which 12 sparkling balls containing monetary values ranging from £10 to £75,000 are combined with 4 so-called killer balls and randomly shared out amongst 4 contestants who then place them in rows with 2 on the front facing out and 2 at the back visible only to them. And they then take turns announcing what the secret balls are worth and try to decide if the other players are telling the truth or not, and then hold a vote to eliminate one of the players, and then the balls go back in, and then they add another 2 cash balls and a killer ball, and the 15 balls are shared out again amongst the contestants, who repeat the procedure of bluffing and voting until only 2 contestants are left, at which point they go through the 11 remaining balls, choosing whether to keep or eliminate each in turn without seeing what it's worth, and throughout this bit a running total of the accumulated value is kept.
Although a killer ball will reduce the value by a factor of 10.
Until finally they're left with a cash prize, which they then have to decide whether to split or steal, i.e. if they both choose split they share it, if one chooses steal they get the whole lot, and if they both choose steal they both get nothing.
That's all it is, and what could be simpler than that?
In August, all preceding culture was rendered redundant as mankind reached its creative peak.
You just see these eyes of this gorilla and like the camera's slowly pulling out as Phil Collins is playing. Phil Collins is playing in the background. Why is Phil Collins playing in the background? I've got to find out. It's like a mystery. When the drums kick in, it's like... It's genius. Really like that.
A brace of cookery shows arrived in August. In fact, at times you couldn't switch on the box without being confronted by some with a whisk.
I love eating and I love cooking, but like you, I always feel I'm in a hurry and it can be hard trying to fit everything in. But I got the answer.
Servants?
In a word, it's express.
Oh.
Express cookery turned out to consist of a bunch of ingenious kitchen shortcuts, which is handy when you're an ordinary person like Nigella, standing in a studio preparing roast boussin for a former Chancellor of the Exchequer while your multi-millionaire husband's off wiping Damien Hirst's arse with a banknote.
Delicious, Johnny.
Thanks, Pa.
Anyway, my favourite cookery shows of the year were Heston Blumenthal's In Search of Perfection, which often looked more like a cross between one of Dr. Gunther von Scaryhat's live Channel 4 autopsies in an episode of CSI, and Channel 5's Cooking the Books.
Welcome to Cooking the Books.
Not because of the content, but because even though it was just a bland, friendly sort of affair, host Jeremy Edwards seemed weirdly terrified throughout.
Worried?
Maybe because someone was perpetually screaming at him through that preposterously large earpiece.
Is that it?
If you give me a spoon, actually, I'll use that to...
Spoon like this, one of these.
Thank you very much.
There you go, sir.
Good.
In September, TV's woes continued as a judge kindly described the Jeremy Kyle show as a human form of bear baiting.
Everyone knows the Jeremy Kyle show is shit, but sometimes it's worth analysing shit to see what's wrong with the body as a whole. And for my money, the biggest, steamiest and stickiest turd Kyle curled out this year was this. It was a special edition in which victims of abuse confront a convicted paedophile.
Not in an earnest attempt to comprehend what makes a sex offender tick, but just so Jeremy, and by extension his viewers, could feel better about themselves by bellowing at someone utterly reprehensible. The circus achieved nothing, but a lot of rage got vented, mainly by Jeremy.
You picked a convicted paedophile over your own flesh and blood.
And not just for a few minutes, but for a full, pointless, insight-free hour, during which Jeremy postured.
You deserve it for the rest of your life, mate.
Whipped up the audience.
With your GNVQs of how not to be a pedo.
Shouted.
You raped your 6-year-old daughter.
Pulled increasingly unhinged facial expressions. And repeatedly used the phrase, "where I come from."
Where I come from, he crossed a line. That is pretty low, where I come from. Where I come from...
Until eventually you started thinking, you know what, I think Jeremy's getting off on this power just a little bit.
You should be monitored from now until the day you die.
Oh, and in case you're wondering, that went out at 9:25 in the morning. What a wonderful world.
That is what you will have to deal with for the rest of your lives, and you deserve it. I am back after this break.
Hello October, in which Channel 4 started celebrating its 25th anniversary, even though this year, like all channels, it was in this shit.
All the networks had a rough time of it this year, and Channel 4 bore the brunt of much of the criticism. But it's worth remembering some of the good things it did, namely some of its dramas.
3 superb one-offs dealt with men haunted by incidents from their past. Secret Life, starring Matthew McFadden as a sex offender undergoing rehabilitation. The Mark of Cain, a furious fictionalisation of abuse at a military base in Iraq. And most recently, the intensely moving Boy A, featuring an outstanding performance from Andrew Garfield as a former schoolboy killer trying to build a new anonymous life.
These were flat-out brilliant programmes, not that Channel 4 Drama always got it right.
Take Clapham Junction, which set out to be a thought-provoking look at gay issues, but ended up being a bit heavy-handed.
Some people might say that's shocking, but he isn't the only person to do that before heading out in public.
Eminently sensible observation that such overkill is fine.
Talk about Terry's bulging sack.
Also in October, Noel Edmonds asked,
"Are you smarter than a 10-year-old? Are you smarter than a 10-year-old?" I could sit and listen to that all fucking day.
We're up to November now, and the return of ITV's garish reenactment of Cannibal Holocaust. I'm a Celebrity. Get me out of here!
You know, it's worth noting that this year reality TV viewers have proved themselves to be a pretty liberal bunch.
They were appalled by racism in Celebrity Big Brother, turned off by Jim Davidson's homophobic nonsense in Hell's Kitchen. They voted for the first black winner of Big Brother, and when the King of the Jungle kissed his husband on live TV, no one batted an eyelid. Oh, and they let Pete Doherty win the X Factor. December means Christmas.
You can tell when Christmas is coming. The nights get darker, the air gets colder, and the toy commercials get more bewildering.
Meet Brian the Brain. He's robotic, chaotic, and totally neurotic. And he's way smart.
What's your password?
Chess.
Brian plays games and is loaded with features.
200 billion.
Brian actually gets to know you.
Kill it!
Don't forget football at 4:30.
Brian the Brain.
I wouldn't want that in my house just in case it plunged a probe into my spine and turned me into a battery. Speaking of progress, it's good to see Iceland continuing to push the boundaries of what's considered edible.
With a hint of sweet chilli.
What next? Cheese elbows? Pork helicopters? Chicken lasagna squircles? Blockbuster ads featuring a galaxy of stars are becoming increasingly popular at Christmas. M&S have opted for a movie pastiche in which girls whore themselves in a bid to impress Antonio Banderas. Sainsbury's have given Jamie Oliver an army of tiny slaves whose hard work he doesn't even acknowledge, like a Asda continue their intensely patronising campaign in which celebs slum it with the proletariat in a bid to shift more units for the man.
Look at the rib capacity on this.
Now get back to stacking those shelves. Tesco have probably won overall by hiring the Spice Girls.
Merry Christmas.
Someone's singing voice has improved.
Hi, I'm looking for Christmas presents to surprise some girlfriends.
You know, Posh Spice is so bad in this, it's the first time in history a human being's been outacted by a trolley. I feel sorry for Morrison's, which looks like it had to make do with all the leftover celebrities no one else wanted. Oh, that Dermot Gavin.
You got enough in there, Alan?
Must be Christmas.
Yes, Alan. What a card.
Well, that was 2007. I'll be back in 2008. And now, to play us out in a tribute to the late Ronnie Hazelhurst, who died this year, it's Matt Berry and his band with some music. Merry Christmas.